So I have a couple of specific questions from people about addressing, and there's two that sort of go together, and it would be helpful if you could give us your thoughts on that.
It depends.
I'm the same answer, it depends.
The system assumes, the electronic systems where they exist, assume that the address is written in country language. That's what the database is going to be in, the postal database. The clerks will only read, mostly, the local language. So your delivery person, everybody that's handling this can't read it if it's translated.
Do you get a different response rate when you're using a local language versus not doing so?
I think one of the variables is the marketer or the organization trying to present themselves as a local organization. So if they have a call center and are able to take calls locally, if they're able to handle those calls in the local language, then maybe putting München instead of Munich is fine because you're able to deal in German with that response. But if you're clearly a U.S. organization marketing into a foreign country, in this case Germany, perhaps it's better, and again it depends, but to be in English.
Jody, I think one of the other variables is the local culture. I've read studies that show very clearly that different cultures respond to different triggers differently.
Does using Roman characters in Russia make delivery harder than using Cyrillic characters? So it's a very specific question.
The simple answer is yes. As soon as you've put it into Latin Western characters, it gets stopped at the beginning of the process. It gets a label put on it with the Cyrillic address. So if you want your piece to look as you sent it, it should be in Cyrillic. They will put a label over it with the Cyrillic address because, again, that local delivery agent can't read.
Okay, bottom line, if you're mailing to Russia, you're better off using Cyrillic.
In terms of international distribution, the Postal Service deals with that question in several different ways. If it's, we have some international services that are geared for volume customers, bulk mailers, for example, and then of course we'll have the individual letter or package that can be sent. Okay, so if it is a single piece, individual package, okay, the Postal Service says that the country name, at least, should be in English, and the city name should also be in English. And the reason for that is because it first has to be handled and processed in our system. So if the entire address was in Cyrillic or in Kanji, when it gets in our system, our personnel would not know what to do with it. So for that reason, the Postal Service says at least the city and the country name, so that we can sort it properly to get it to that country. Then when it gets to that country, if the name and the street were in Cyrillic, then they could obviously deal with it at that level.
Is that you want that to be a usable address. So one of the most important things is that you're capturing specific to the individual's country, that, as Barry pointed out, that the postal code is in the right place, that you say postal code instead of zip on that form because they may not be familiar with the term zip. So speak in their language even in the arrangement of that form and the naming of those fields in that form. So dynamic capture at a country-specific level is a great way of assuring that you're capturing the right data points.
And when you're dealing